About 535,000 people live in the province. They can be divided into three main linguistic groups. 69% of the population speaks German, 26% Italian and 4.5% Latin. There are, of course, also people from other countries. South Tyrol is Italy's most northerly province, and it is an autonomous province. This means it has autonomous administrative powers in many sectors. The reasons for this are historical. For over 5 centuries, from 1363 to 1918, Tyrol at the time was made up of Trentino, Alto Adige, South Tyrol, and modern-day Tyrol was part of the Habsburg Empire. Many languages were spoken in this enormous multi-ethnic nation. In the wake of World War I, the historical Tyrol region was divided between Italy and Austria, with South Tyrol becoming part of Italy. This happened in 1919. In 1922, fascism came to power. Alto Adige replaced the term South Tyrol. German was banned in public service and in schools. Italian became the only official language. In 1923, the Ladins, who live in 5 valleys in the Dolomites, found themselves under various provinces and regions. In the 1920s and 30s, the fascist regime built an enormous industrial zone in Bolzano, resulting in thousands of workers moving to the area, often from other northern Italian regions. As a consequence, the size of the Italian-speaking population grew quite substantially. In 1939, the year of the choice. Following an agreement between Hitler and Mussolini, the local population was forced to decide whether to remain in Alto Adige and become Italian or move to Germany and leave their land. In 1939 to 1945. World War II brought death, destruction, and desperation. The end of this global conflict heralded a new era for Alto Adige. The foundations of the current autonomous province were created, a form of devolved governance that is a model for the coexistence of different ethnic groups in Europe. It all began in 1946. At the Paris Peace Conference, the victors decided that Alto Adige would remain part of Italy. Italy and Austria signed the Paris Agreement that granted protection for the culture and language of the German-speaking minority. This agreement served as a basis for the first autonomy statute, approved in 1948. However, the German-speaking population was unhappy as self-governance and legislative powers were almost entirely in the hands of the Italian majority in the Trentino-Alto Adige region. Plus, the government failed to enact some of the basic provisions of the Paris Agreement, or did so very timidly, and with major delays. The population grew unhappy, and in 1957, this discontent bubbled up into a major protest at Castel Fiumicino. In the late 1950s, Austria brought the question of Alto Adige or South Tyrol before the United Nations. In the meantime, the population grew increasingly restless, and during the night between the 11th and the 12th of June 1961, the Sunday celebrating the Sacred Heart of Jesus, many electricity pylons were blown up in what became known as the Night of Fire. Following two UN resolutions, the governments of Austria and Italy began intense negotiations that included representatives from South Tyrol. A package of rules was agreed on, and following approval by the SVP party in 1969, the Second Autonomy Statute finally came into force in 1972. Over the next 2 decades, a specific commission worked out how to enact the new Autonomy Statute. In June 1992, Austria and Italy jointly informed the United Nations that the dispute was over and that the question of South Tyrol had been resolved. The autonomy granted to South Tyrol allows it to legislate on and administer various sectors, including place names, landscape protection, handicrafts, nursery schooling, healthcare, fishing and hunting. The autonomous province governs through the provincial council, the provincial government and the president of the province. Provincial councillors are elected directly by the people of South Tyrol for a 5-year term. Voters must be of age and entitled to vote. The council is made up of 35 councillors from the province's 3 official linguistic groups. Councillors also form various political groups according to their political affiliation. In the chamber, councillors can speak Italian or German. Simultaneous interpretation is provided and all documents are drafted or translated into both languages. The Provincial Council has 4 main roles. First, it approves provincial laws on any area not falling within exclusive competence of the state, such as education, healthcare, use of public waters, trade, and many other aspects of everyday life. Second, it acts as a check on the activities of the provincial government. For example, councillors can submit written questions on specific issues to the executive. It can also require the provincial government to take action in a specific area. This is done by councillors submitting motions. Third, the Provincial Council also elects the President of the province and the members of the executive. In its first session after an election, the Council elects its President. For the first half of the legislative term, the President is elected among the German councillors. For the second half of the term, he nor she is elected among the Italian ones. If the majority of one of the 2 linguistic groups resolves not to take the role, the Latin linguistic group does. The President represents the Provincial Council, convenes and chairs sessions, and presides over who speaks in compliance with the Council's internal rules. The Council can elect up to 2 vice presidents belonging to the 2 linguistic groups the President does not belong to. It also elects 3 councillors who, along with the President, form the office of the Presidency. At least one of them must be a member of the opposition. The main duty of the office of the Presidency is to assist the President in presiding over Council sessions and administering the Council. The provincial government is the executive body of South Tyrol. It consists of the President of the province, the 3 vice presidents, 1 from the German, 1 from the Italian, and 1 from the Latin linguistic group, as well as of several provincial ministers. The exact number is ratified by the Provincial Council at the start of the legislative term. The President of the province then allocates specific areas to the provincial ministers. The legislative committees, consisting of councillors, examine the draft bills before they are brought to the chamber. At the start of each legislative term, the Provincial Council establishes the number of committees, their remit and number of members. Draft bills can be put forward by councillors, the executive, the Council of Municipalities, or even by ordinary citizens. For the latter, a specific number of signatures supporting the initiative is required. The legislative committees must examine draft bills within 90 days, and they have the power to make amendments. Once the committees have completed their work, the draft bills are sent on to the Provincial Council, along with a report from the Commission, so they can be discussed in the Chamber. Any member of the Legislative Committee who does not agree with the content and or purpose of the bill may present a minority report. Council sessions are open to the public. Anyone can attend them. Live streaming is also provided. Draft bills are put on the agenda of the Provincial Council and are later discussed in the Chamber. First, there is a general discussion, with each councillor being allowed to speak for up to 15 minutes. The Council then examines the single articles. Amendments to parts of the bill can be submitted up to 48 hours prior to the session. Finally, the draft bill is voted on. The approved bill is then published in the region's official gazette and generally takes effect 15 days later. If the Italian government feels the provincial law encroaches on the national remit, it has 60 days to ask the Constitutional Court to check its constitutionality. Similarly, the province can also turn to the Constitutional Court if it thinks that the national law conflicts with its autonomy. Passing laws is not the only task of the Council. Various bodies are attached to the Council. The Public Ombudsman, which has to mediate in conflicts between citizens and the public service. The Ombudsman for Children, dealing with issues involving the rights and living standards of children and adolescents. The Gender Equality Advisor, who is committed to improving the working conditions for women and combats gender discrimination. The Communications Committee, which is the agency supervising the telecommunications sector at a provincial level and represents the institution to turn to for disputes with telecommunications providers. The Council of Municipalities that represents local authorities and releases an opinion on draft bills and acts concerning municipalities. The Monitoring Commission, a watchdog that checks whether the administrative action of the province and its institutions is legitimate, impartial, and functions properly. We now know how the Council of the Autonomous Province of Bolzano works. Democracy really means self-governance by the people. This refers to a system of governance in which sovereignty is exercised by all citizens through voting. On the one hand, the people elect their political representatives. On the other hand, they can express themselves directly through grassroots consultation or referendums. It is vital that citizens are familiar with the various institutions and the way they are organised. It is also essential that everyone plays an active role in public life, learning about and contributing to political decision making, using their right to vote or taking other initiatives.